My girlfriend came back from her lengthy journey with her best friend and discovered the brutal message I left, uncovering all her hidden lies. Be me. Maya says she's going to Charleston with Chloe. Girls' weekend, she says. Beaches, cocktails, massage treatments. Says it like it's casual. Like we've done this routine before. And we'd always trusted each other. There was no reason not to. But this time it landed differently. Her eyes didn't meet mine when she said goodbye. Her kiss was light, robotic. She didn't look back when she pulled her suitcase down the driveway. I watched her drive off through the blinds. Didn't even wave. That evening, I stood in the kitchen, eating stale crackers straight from the box, staring at the little magnet photo of us on the fridge. The one from Nashville 2 springs ago. Her cheeks red from laughing too hard. My arm looped around her like I thought I'd never let go. Funny how it already looked like a picture of strangers. Days passed. Days of weird silences. No texts unless I sent the first one. No calls. Just a blurry selfie of a martini glass. And an over-filtered shot of her feet by a hotel pool. Chloe didn't tag her in anything. I checked. She was home too early in some photos, which I only realized after stalking Chloe's tagged stories. That's what pulled the first thread. That and the way Maya kept typing LOL, like it was a placeholder instead of a reaction. Cold rushed replies. One-word answers. Still, I didn't say anything. I cooked dinner. I cleaned. I went to work and came back to a house with too much air in it. Something just wouldn't sit right in my stomach. There was this pressure, a coil inside my chest. She came back Tuesday night. Didn't text ahead, just walked through the door with that fake tan and her expensive perfume and said, "Hey babe, miss me?" She looked exhausted, but not in the way you do after a spa weekend. She looked drained. Used? I nodded. Yeah, how was it? She dropped her bag by the stairs, peeled off her jacket like she was in a rush to get out of her own skin. Good, so relaxing we needed it. Girl talk drinks lots of gossip. She smiled too hard and didn't ask me anything. Not how I'd been, not what I did while she was gone. She took a shower without kissing me, then got in bed and scrolled through her phone, like I wasn't even there. Her lock screen lit up once around 11:47 p.m. A notification from an app I didn't recognize. Purple icon. Some scheduling thing. No messaging. I stared at the back of her head in the dark. The soft buzz of her phone lighting her face. Every few minutes, I couldn't sleep. By morning, she was gone again. Something about needing to get to the office early. But her tablet was still charging by her nightstand. I don't know what got into me. I'd never gone through her things before. But my hand moved before my brain could argue. I opened the tablet. No password. I didn't have to look long. There was a folder buried in her files, labeled Reflections. Thought it was something from work maybe, a presentation. Instead it was a Word document. Just one, no date, titled If I Could Say It to Your Face. I opened it. My body locked up as I started reading. It wasn't a journal. It wasn't therapy notes. It was a goddamn love letter to him. His name was Tyler. She met him through a client, apparently. At a cocktail mixer 3 months ago, she wrote about their first touch like it was poetry. The way he looked at her, the way she hadn't felt seen like that in years, the way she let him see her. I kept reading even when my stomach turned to ice. She described every detail, every whispered word, every lie she told me while she was with him. She said she felt alive for the first time in years. That David is safe, but safe isn't real. Safe is beige. Tyler is fire. She admitted they didn't use protection, that she didn't even care. She said it felt right. That being with him made her feel like a woman, not a role. Then came the sentence that made my ears ring. I love my husband, but I love Tyler more. I didn't move for almost an hour. I just sat there, the tablet in my lap, my hands numb. My pulse was slow and loud. I don't even remember standing up. I don't remember writing the note, but I know I wrote it. 4 words, black ink, stuck to the fridge. I read it all. I walked out without slamming the door. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't take anything. Just my keys, my wallet, and the last few ounces of dignity I still had. The next morning she came back, and everything changed. I got back to the house just before sunrise. I hadn't slept. My body was awake, but my brain was somewhere else. Like I was floating a few feet behind myself, watching a stranger walk through the motions. I sat in the driveway for a long time, engine running, hands gripping the wheel tight enough to leave impressions. The windows were still dark. I could see the sticky note on the fridge through the kitchen window, lit dimly by the microwave clock. I read it all. She must have seen it when she came back the night before. Must have stood there reading it over and over, trying to figure out how much I really knew, trying to guess what was still salvageable. But when I walked in, she wasn't crying. She wasn't even angry. She was pouring coffee. Morning, she said. Like we hadn't shattered, like everything was normal. I stared at her waiting for the apology, the panic, the human reaction. But she just sipped her mug and turned around. I figured we'd talk, she said. Talk? I dropped my keys on the table. The sound made her flinch. Talk about what, Maya? She rolled her eyes. Don't do that. Don't turn this into some drama. You clearly read something you weren't meant to see, and now you're spiraling. I laughed. Actually laughed. Sharp and bitter. Spiraling. You wrote a love letter to the guy you cheated on me with. Her tone sharpened. It wasn't a love letter, it was a process. I stepped closer. You described him touching you. You wrote that you weren't ready to leave me, because you weren't finished tasting freedom. She looked at the floor. Like I was inconveniencing her. You weren't supposed to find it. You keep saying that like it makes this better. She slammed her cup down. Fine, you want me to say it. Yes, I saw someone. Yes, I lied. But maybe if you paid more attention to me, if you didn't act like this safe little husband all the time, I wouldn't have felt so goddamn invisible. There it was. The shift. The slow twist of the knife. The way only someone who knows your deepest insecurities can do. You felt invisible, I repeated. So you threw away our marriage like it was a cheap jacket? She folded her arms. It's not black and white, David. You keep thinking I'm some villain. Maybe if you tried to understand why I felt the need to step outside, we wouldn't be here. I stood there soaking it all in. The contempt in her voice. The way she twisted it into my fault. Like I didn't bend over backwards to make her happy. Like I hadn't been loyal to a fault. Like I hadn't ignored every damn red flag. Because I loved her too much to believe the worst. I didn't cheat because I hate you, she said. I just needed more. More than me, I asked. More than the life we built. More than the man who held your hand through your father's surgery. Who worked overtime to get us out of debt. Who stood beside you when you didn't believe in yourself. She didn't answer. I should have screamed. I should have thrown something. But I didn't. I just stared at her. Something in my chest split. Not loud like glass. More like fabric tearing down the middle. Finally I said, you killed this. Not me. Not we. You. She bit her lip. Annoyed. So what now? You want a divorce. You want to ruin both of our lives over a few mistakes. A few mistakes. She said it like she dropped a dish. No, I said. You already ruined mine. Now I'm just making sure I don't keep living in it. I walked upstairs, took a single suitcase, and filled it with enough clothes for a few weeks. I didn't look at the photos on the walls. I didn't look at our bed. I didn't look back at her when I walked past the kitchen. As I reached the front door, she called out, "You're overreacting." I paused. My hand was on the knob. No, I said. I'm just finally reacting. Then I left. I stayed in a cheap motel the first few nights. One of those off the highway places, with a rusted ice machine, and curtains that don't fully close. The room smelled like bleach and stale cigarettes. Even though it was labeled non-smoking, I didn't care. It was quiet. It was mine. No perfume lingering in the air. No ghost of laughter in the hallway. Just a stained ceiling and the low hum of isolation. I kept my phone on silent. Every hour or so I'd glance at the screen. Missed calls. Unread texts. All from her. Maya, David, please just talk to me. You're blowing this way out of proportion? You know I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't do anything that bad. Please don't tell anyone. Are you with someone else? Is that what this is? The irony of that last one almost made me throw the phone across the room. She kept calling me by name in every message. Like saying it would anchor me. Like it would make me remember who she used to be. But the Maya I knew, the woman I married, died somewhere between I love you and I love Tyler more. I didn't respond. I spent those days replaying everything in my head. Not just the document, the years leading up to it, the slow erosion, the way she used to reach for my hand in the car, the way her eyes stopped lighting up when I walked into the room. I'd asked her about it once. A few months ago. You okay? I'd said. She was tying her hair back and didn't even look up. I'm fine, just tired. Always tired. I started noticing how she used the word fine. Like a wall. Flat, thin, cold. I used to think it was work stress. Life stress. Normal marriage stuff. But now I realized she'd been pulling away. While I was still running toward her, she wasn't tired. She was somewhere else. And while I was losing sleep over whether I was doing enough, saying enough, being enough, she was writing love notes to a man who got to see the parts of her I never even knew she was hiding. By the fourth day, I went back to the house. Not for her. For me, I needed to see it with different eyes, to know I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined the change. She was there on the couch, knees curled, blanket around her like she was the one who'd been left behind. Her hair was unwashed. There were empty wine glasses on the table. When she saw me, her eyes lit up for a second. "David," she whispered. Like it was some miracle. "I'm not staying," I said. The hope in her face cracked instantly. "I just came for my things. The rest of them. Can we at least talk?" I nodded toward the table. "Was that what you did with him? Sit and talk like this." She stood up too quickly. "You don't get to do that. You don't get to punish me like I'm some cartoon villain. I'm a human being, David. I made a mistake." I walked past her. "Stop calling it a mistake. You packed a bag and flew across the country to fuck someone else. That's not a slip-up. That's a choice." She grabbed my wrist. Not hard. Just enough to make me stop. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I pulled away. "But it did." She was quiet then, barely above a whisper. "Do you still love me?" That question. Like she hadn't shattered everything. Like love was a switch I could flip back on. If she looked sad enough. I looked at her for a long time. "I think I loved who you were," I said. "And maybe that version of you is still buried in there somewhere. But I don't know this person. The one who lies, the one who writes about tasting freedom. While I'm doing laundry and wondering if you're okay." Her lip trembled. Her eyes filled, but there were no tears. Not real ones. She didn't say anything else. She just let me go upstairs and pack the last of my clothes. I didn't rush. I moved slowly, with purpose. The silence in the house felt different this time. Like it belonged to me again. Before I left, she followed me to the door. "Do you hate me?" I opened the door, paused. "No," I said, "but I don't trust you." And without that what's left, she didn't try to stop me again. I walked out into the late afternoon sun, and this time I didn't look back. It's strange the first time you sleep in a new bed, knowing you'll never go back to the old one. Not just the mattress, not just the space, it's the history, the echoes, the place you left, cried, whispered half-drunk confessions under tangled blankets, made plans for a future that no longer exists. I moved into a small rental unit on the west side of town, a one-bedroom above a bakery. That smells like fresh bread and vanilla. The guy who rented it to me said, "Most of the tenants here are quiet. You'll be fine." I didn't answer. I didn't care about the noise. I signed the lease that morning, paid first and last. And as I was leaving, the landlord casually said, "New start, huh?" I stopped at the threshold. "Something like that." He smiled. "Nothing wrong with starting over. Beats staying where you're not wanted." There was something about that, where you're not wanted, that stuck, because that's exactly what it was. Not just betrayal, not just lies. Maya made a choice to put herself in someone else's arms, because she wanted to, and she stayed there. And she wrote about it like it was a chapter of some thrilling romance novel, while I was still trying to be her partner, in a story she'd already checked out of. The day I moved my stuff out completely. She wasn't home. She texted me that morning, asking if we could talk when things cooled down. I didn't answer. I walked into the house with a friend, Jordan, my best man at the wedding, and we packed the rest in silence. The dining room table, my office chair, some books she never cared about, the record player she never used. Jordan looked at me halfway through and said, "Want me to put on music?" I shook my head. "No soundtrack? Just get it done." I found one last note, folded inside the drawer of my nightstand. It wasn't long, just her handwriting. Small and sharp. I wish things had been different. I didn't mean to fall out of love, but I think I did. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm sorry that you found out this way. You deserve better. You always did. No signature. Not even love Maya. Just that... Jordan read it over my shoulder and muttered, "Jesus." I folded it once, slowly, and dropped it into the trash bag. We left by sunset. I locked the door behind me, then hesitated. Not out of longing, not out of sadness, but because there was nothing left in that house for me. No scent, no warmth, no thread worth pulling. I left the keys in the mailbox and walked away. Later that night, she called. I watched the phone ring, let it go to voicemail, then a message. "Maya, I'm going to start therapy. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I thought you should know. I've been talking to Tyler less. It's not what I thought it was. I think I screwed everything up, and now I don't even know what I want anymore. But I miss you. I miss us. I'd give anything to rewind." I didn't respond, because here's what I learned. You don't fight for someone who lit the match and watched you burn just to see if you'd scream. You don't go back to the house that turned its lights off while you were still inside, and you don't beg to be chosen when you were supposed to be enough the first time. A week went by before I heard her voice again. Not through a call, not a voicemail, a real voice. In person. I was leaving the coffee shop by my new place, the one with the burnt espresso and the mismatched chairs. When I saw her, she was leaning against my car, just like that. No warning, no text, no reason. She was dressed like she had somewhere better to be. Boots she never used to wear. leather jacket zipped halfway, sunglasses in her hand. Not crying, not even pretending. She looked like someone who had decided her role in this little drama was the misunderstood protagonist, waiting for the man who walked away. To realize his mistake, I stopped 2 steps from her. "What are you doing here, Maya?" She tilted her head. "You changed your number?" "No," I said. "I blocked you." She smiled a little. "You always were direct." I didn't smile back. She sighed. "Look, I just wanted 5 minutes. That's all. I'm not here to beg. I don't know. I thought maybe we could have a real conversation." I glanced behind her. A couple walked by with coffee and held hands. Normal. Uncomplicated. Real. "I think we had that already," I said. "Not really. You walked out. I needed space to explain." "You wrote everything you needed to explain in that document," I said. "And everything else you told me after. Was you trying to control the story?" Her face hardened. "That's not fair." "No." I stepped closer. "You lied to me for months. You slept beside me knowing you were with someone else. You planned that trip, Maya. You bought the ticket. You packed the bag. You booked the room. And then you wrote about it like it was a dream. You didn't want to wake up from... So tell me again what part of that is supposed to be fair." She looked down, and for the first time I saw it. Not guilt. Not grief. Defeat. "I didn't know what I was doing," she said quietly. "It just happened one moment at a time. I didn't go looking for it, I swear." I scoffed. "You took a flight. You crossed state lines. That's not a moment, Maya. That's a plan." Silence. She finally looked up. "I ended things with him." "I don't care," I said. "I'm not your rebound. I'm not your reward for realizing he wasn't what you thought he'd be. You didn't just betray me. You turned me into a placeholder. While you went and found yourself, you left the door open and expected me to just wait on the porch." She stepped forward. "I didn't mean for you to find that file, but you wrote it anyway. So who was it for?" She opened her mouth, closed it, and then she said something that stuck to my ribs. "I think I wanted to be seen, even if it meant being caught." I stared at her for a long time. No words. She shifted her weight. "So that's it. We're just nothing now." I shook my head. "No, we were everything, and then you killed it. So no, we're not nothing, but we're done." She looked like she wanted to cry. I think she thought that would move me. "Didn't. I loved you," she whispered. "No," I said. "You loved yourself with me watching." Then I got in my car, and I left her standing there, alone in the parking lot, and it didn't hurt like I thought it would. The first full breath I took came days later, standing in a grocery store aisle, staring at a shelf of hot sauces. It sounds stupid, I know, but something about that moment hit me harder than any of the screaming matches or sleepless nights. I was just standing there, holding a bottle of habanero garlic, and I realized this was the first time in years I'd picked something only because I wanted it. Not because she liked it, not because it was our favorite, not because we used it on tacos every Friday. Just me, just a damn hot sauce. And that's when it sank in. I'd built a whole life around someone who was never really building one back. I had to relearn how to function without her orbit. Mornings were the worst. Waking up in that quiet apartment, with no sounds of her brushing her teeth, no half-brewed coffee waiting, no footsteps in the hall, just sunlight and space, and a version of me I didn't recognize anymore. But piece by piece, I started taking it back. I changed my routines. I deleted the playlists we made together, started making new ones. Louder, messier, less curated. I got a haircut she always said didn't suit me. Turns out it does. I stopped checking her socials. Eventually, I stopped even wanting to. People around me started noticing something was off. My mom asked if everything was okay. I told her we were separated. She didn't press. Jordan knew. He didn't say much. Just handed me a beer one night and said, "Some bridges need to burn. You don't owe her water." At work, I stopped volunteering for extra hours. I started taking lunch alone. Started reading again. Started sleeping real sleep. Not the kind where your body's horizontal, but your brain's sprinting laps. She tried texting again. Less often. Always different tones. One day regretful. One day flirty. One day philosophical. Like we were characters in some grand misunderstood love story. "Maya, do you ever think about the beginning? Do you remember our anniversary in New Orleans? Do you think if I hadn't gone to that conference, things would be different? Do you hate me? I miss my friend." I didn't answer any of them. I wasn't her friend. I was the man she buried with a smile and a plane ticket. What really kept me grounded was the journal. Yeah, I started writing, not out of some self-help revelation. It just happened. One night I sat down and started listing everything I remembered about her. Not the good parts. The real parts. The look she gave me when she thought I was being too sensitive. The way she called emotional honesty drama. The times she made me feel small in front of other people, and laughed it off as a joke. I filled 3 pages in one sitting. Then I flipped back to the beginning and wrote across the top in red ink, "Don't forget what it felt like, because time has a way of softening sharp edges, of making you second-guess pain." And I knew if I let myself forget, I might start to miss her again. And that was the real danger. Not her texts, not the memory of her body, not the echo of her laugh in the back of my mind. The danger was the version of her I wanted to remember. But that version, that woman, never existed. Not for me. It was around month 2 when the silence started feeling like a gift. Instead of a sentence, the phone stopped buzzing. The "just thinking about you" texts dried up. Whatever little campaign Maya had launched to pull me back into her storm finally fizzled. Maybe she got tired. Maybe she ran out of ways to twist the story. Or maybe, most likely, she realized I wasn't going to be the backup plan. She could crawl back to when reality slapped her in the face. Because that's the thing about people like her. They don't really regret what they did. They regret losing control. They regret losing the safety net. The last message she ever sent me came late one night. I didn't even see it until the next morning, because I had finally gotten a full 8 hours of sleep. "Maya, I guess this is goodbye then. I hope someday you'll remember the good, not just the end. I did love you in my own way. I hope that counts for something." I didn't reply. I deleted the message. Then I blocked the number again, and it didn't hurt. It was like closing the last page of a book I should have stopped reading years ago. Around that same time, I started seeing someone, not in the way people do to cover the cracks, not a rebound, not some fix-it girl I projected my broken pieces onto. Her name's Natalie. We met at a volunteer event for the local animal shelter. Ironic, since Maya always hated animals, said they were too much work. Natalie was wearing paint-splattered jeans and trying to keep a terrified mutt from bolting under a folding table. She made a joke about the dog having better taste in people than she did. I laughed without pretending. Felt weird. Good weird. Real. We talked. We worked. We grabbed coffee. No pressure. No masks. No pretending. She didn't know my history at first. I didn't lead with it. But when I finally told her, really told her, she didn't blink. Didn't flinch. She just said, "That wasn't love, that was control." Big difference. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. Natalie didn't try to save me. She didn't try to rewrite the story. She just saw me, and I didn't feel like I had to earn that. It was small things that reminded me what I'd survived, like hearing a couple argue in the parking lot, and realizing I wasn't anxious because I wasn't involved, like waking up on a Sunday and knowing no one was lying to my face, like picking up my phone and seeing no unread messages from someone who only remembered me when she felt alone. Grief didn't leave all at once. It never does. Some days I still felt like an echo. Some mornings I woke up reaching for a shadow. That didn't exist anymore. But more and more those moments faded, replaced by laughter that didn't feel forced, by peace that didn't come with a catch, by quiet that didn't feel like punishment. I was no longer someone's backup plan, no longer someone's safe space. While they chased strangers in hotel rooms and called it freedom, I was just me. And for the first time in years, that was enough. It was a Thursday when I ran into Chloe. Yeah, that Chloe. The bestie Maya was supposedly with on the now infamous Charleston trip. I hadn't seen her since the wedding. She looked older now, but sharper somehow. Eyes more tired, voice more deliberate. She spotted me near the entrance of a bookstore downtown. Called my name like she wasn't sure if she should. "David." I turned, half expecting some kind of awkward smile or stiff nod. But she came over, arms folded across her chest, like she was carrying weight that didn't belong to her. "I was hoping I wouldn't see you," she said. Then quickly, "I don't mean that the way it sounds." I raised an eyebrow. "All right." She exhaled. "Look, I didn't know what she told you about the trip. About me." My jaw tensed. She watched me carefully. "I didn't go with her. I didn't even know she was leaving town. I found out about Tyler weeks later. She told me not to say anything. Said you two were working through stuff, and she didn't want me confusing the narrative." Her words, confusing the narrative? Of course. I laughed once. "Dry. She used you as an alibi." Chloe nodded. I didn't like it, but she was falling apart. And I didn't know what was true anymore. She'd say one thing to me, another to her coworkers, and then act like you were the problem. I kept thinking maybe this is just one of those messy seasons. But then she looked me dead in the face and said, "It's not cheating if it's evolution." That's when I stopped defending her. That line, "It's not cheating if it's evolution," the kind of thing you only say when you're trying to rewrite morality with lipstick and justifications. "I'm sorry," Chloe said. "You didn't deserve that." I nodded. "I know." She hesitated. She's not doing great, you know. I figured she's not with him anymore. Tyler, I looked her straight in the eye. I'm not surprised. They weren't building anything. They were just escaping from what they didn't want to fix. Chloe winced. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. She paused before walking away. If you ever want the full story, I can tell you. But I shook my head. I've heard enough stories. I'm done living in hers. And just like that, she was gone. I stood there in the breeze, letting the past close the door behind it. The lies, the performative guilt, the smoke and mirrors she built around her choices, all of it fading like fog under sunlight. I didn't hate Maya. I didn't even wish her harm. I just didn't need her anymore. That was the real turning point. Not the confrontation, not the move out, not even the new relationship. It was the quiet certainty that she no longer had a say in who I was becoming, that she could no longer reach me. Not with her guilt, her charm, or her carefully phrased almost apologies. The story was done, and I was writing something better. Life didn't change overnight. It wasn't cinematic. There was no triumphant music swelling as I walked into the sunset with Natalie's hand in mine, or some neatly tied up scene where I delivered a final zinger and disappeared into a new chapter like a movie ending. It was quieter than that. Real healing happens in the details, in the way I learned to cook for one, without feeling lonely, in how I left my laundry in the dryer too long, without anyone sighing in disappointment, in the first time I laughed so hard, I forgot who I used to be with. I found myself in bits and pieces, at the gym, on long walks with no destination, in late-night calls with Jordan, where we talked more about life than we ever did before. He said something once, something simple, but it hit me like a freight train. She didn't break you. She just reminded you who not to trust with your heart again. That stuck. Because yeah, what Maya did, it tore through me. The betrayal, the gaslighting, the casual way she tried to rewrite the truth, even after I'd read every word she'd hidden. But what broke me wasn't the act itself. It was the years I spent loving someone who deep down had already walked away. Loyalty without reciprocation is slow suicide. Natalie never tried to replace her, never once compared herself to Maya. That's what made her different. We didn't talk about Maya much. Only once over dinner, after I'd finally told her everything. She didn't interrupt, didn't pity me. She just said that must have been so lonely. And that was it. She saw it, the part most people miss. It wasn't the cheating. It wasn't even the lies. It was the loneliness of staying loyal to someone who had already left you emotionally. Months before they ever packed a bag, Maya was a storm. Loud, sudden, thrilling. Natalie is the steady after the downpour. She knows how to sit with silence. She doesn't flinch when I'm quiet for too long. She doesn't need to be the center of every room. She shows up every time, not with grand gestures, but with presence, with peace. One evening months into being with Natalie, we were lying on the couch, watching some mindless show with our feet tangled, and she said, "You're not afraid to exhale anymore." I looked at her, and I realized she was right. I wasn't bracing anymore. I wasn't watching shadows. I wasn't dissecting the meaning behind every sentence, every sigh, every locked screen. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Not because someone promised me I was, but because no one was making me doubt it. The thing about being betrayed isn't just the pain, it's what comes after. The way you question your instincts, your memory, your worth. You carry that with you until something or someone gives you permission to put it down. And Natalie didn't hand me permission. She made space for it, quietly, patiently. And in that space, I found myself again, not as her husband, not as her victim, but as me, whole, standing, free. It's strange how peace doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock or blaze through the door like rage does. It just settles in one day like dust in sunlight. I was sitting at a traffic light when I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not numb, not bitter, just done, free. The Maya chapter didn't vanish. It's still there. It happened, it shaped me, but it no longer defines me. She doesn't get to be the center of my story anymore. She's a page, one that burned but didn't destroy the book. There was a time I thought I'd never be able to think of her without pain. That every song, every corner of our town, every smell of her shampoo in passing, would reopen some invisible wound. But time, when you let it do its quiet work, doesn't just dull the edges, it redraws the whole map. And on that new map, there's no trace of her. There's just me. I didn't need closure from her. I gave it to myself. I learned that love isn't supposed to make you anxious. That loyalty isn't a leash. That trusting someone doesn't mean ignoring your gut, because you're afraid to confront the truth. I don't regret loving her. I regret staying after she stopped loving me back. She taught me what I will never tolerate again. what real partnership is not, and for that, in a twisted way, I'm grateful. Because now I know what it is to be chosen without question, to be seen without having to perform, to be enough without asking. Natalie and I still take it slow. I'm not rushing to rewrite what was broken. We're not playing house. We're living real. Some days are light, some heavier, but there's honesty now, and I'll take that over illusion any day. The last time I saw Maya was 8 months ago. She didn't notice me. She was walking through a parking lot with someone I didn't recognize. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, just reduced. She laughed at something he said, but even from a distance I could tell it wasn't real. It was the laugh she gave when she wanted to be liked, not when she was actually happy. I didn't feel anything. Not anger, not loss, not even curiosity, just relief. Because she wasn't mine anymore. And that wasn't a tragedy. That was the escape. So if you're reading this and you're where I was, if you're sleeping next to someone whose phone face down hides a whole other life, if your gut is screaming and you keep silencing it with hope, listen to it. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not too sensitive. You're just in love with someone who has already left the room. And no matter how beautiful the beginning was, if the ending requires you to lose yourself to survive it, close the book. I did, and I promise you, peace is waiting on the other side.